Hello and welcome to the Monday, November 9th edition of the TV on Basketball podcast with your host, TV. Lots of great NBA news coming from this week, and I'm very excited to talk about them here today. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic day, and thank you for listening to this podcast. Hope I am a great start to a good week for you guys, and hope you achieve all that you want to achieve, and hope that you just enjoy this podcast, this episode, as I talk about NBA news today. And I'm going to be firing up the trade machine. Yes, the good old trade machine. I'm going to be looking at some trades that I think that could happen this offseason. And yeah, I'm just very excited to get into this episode. But before we get into it, just like always, I have to do my plugging. Remember to follow at TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for updates on the podcast and for other content. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, remember to leave a 5-star review. Subscribe if you don't want to miss an episode. And remember, we're also on other platforms as well. Podbean, Anchor, Spotify. All those links can be found in my link tree in the bio of my Instagram, all my other social medias. And I will also link them in this video. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to hit the subscribe button. Remember to hit the like button. That will be very much appreciated. And I'm excited for what's to come up for the next 2 weeks. I have some great episodes coming for you this Friday with a familiar guest if you've been listening to the podcast for a while. I'm very excited to be releasing that this week. And yeah, that's everything to do with my plugging. Let's get right into this episode. And we're going to start with the news. And obviously, the biggest news coming out from this week is the NBA Players Association and the NBA have come to a tentative agreement that December 22 will be the start date for the 2020-2021 NBA season. Not going to go much into this because that's going to be a huge topic in my show coming this Friday. And if I just want to give any kind of hints, any previews for what's going to talk about in the series in that episode, I want to basically say I'm just glad that they were able to come to an agreement on a deal. This thing could have got really messy really quickly, and I'm just glad they have a good relationship. And yeah, that's all I'm really gonna say about it right now. This week, you should be checking out Friday's episode where me and my guests will be going into depth on that topic. But yeah, that's that. Let's move on to the next topic, and we're gonna be talking about a former head coach of the Indiana Pacers, Nate McMillan, is close to signing a deal with the Atlanta Hawks to become an assistant coach. And I think this is not a bad deal for the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, it's just another respected voice in the NBA. He's had plenty head coaching experience with the Seattle Supersonics, with the Indiana Pacers. I believe there's a team in between there as well, but those are the ones that are coming to mind. And, he kind of had a rough exit there in Indiana. He kind of plateaued as a head coach. They weren't really going up or going down. They just kind of plateaued as a first or second round exit in the East. And maybe he can revive his career and do some good things with the Hawks under Lloyd Pierce. I also believe that because he is a former point guard, like I said, he used to play for the Seattle Supersonics. And I just think having someone with the experience could really help Trae Young navigate the position, and just as another good mentor for him. So I think it's a pretty good signing. Let's see if the Atlanta Hawks are able to make some noise this year, because last year I had them trying to make some big improvements. That didn't really happen, but I think that this year definitely could be the case. Next topic. Oh boy, this one's pretty funny. Meyers Leonard. Yes, Meyers Leonard. If you don't know where he was playing for the Miami Heat last year. Was a starter for the majority of the regular season, but transitioned to a role on the bench, and he turned to be a third big man behind Bam Adebayo and Kelly Olynyk. And he's a free agent this summer, and he said he wants to move on to a championship contending team where he expects to play 20 to 25 minutes per game. You heard me right. Meyers Leonard wants 20 to 25 minutes per game on a championship contender. What? I mean, I honestly couldn't believe the headline when I saw that. I had to look at him. He actually wants 20 to 25 minutes per game on a championship team. And I'm like, is this guy actually serious? Like, this guy couldn't get run in the finals. Like, the only reason he played even remotely is just because Bam got injured. No other reason whatsoever. Yes, he could shoot the three, but he is not a great defender. He is very flat-footed, so he's not going to be able to, switch on the players. He's literally just there for his three-point shooting ability. He's basically another version of Channing Frye. Honestly, that's all he really is. And I'm just looking at, just thinking of, teams, let alone contending teams. What team is giving Meyers Leonard 20 to 25 minutes per game? You're going to have to find that maybe, on a Charlotte Hornets team. Maybe, I don't know. That's, really the first thing that comes to mind. But I'm like, there's nowhere. Even, with, the non-contending teams, you're just not going to get that type of minutes. Would I be comfortable with him as a third or backup center, playing maximum 10 to 15 minutes a game? Yeah, I mean, he could shoot the three. He's not a great defender, but at least he can hold himself together. But at the same time, man, you gotta know your value, and I don't think he realizes his value in the league. You can get a lot of players that have kind of a similar play style to him, a la Kelly Olynyk, which he'd have used time and time again. And I just think he's kind of in over his head at this point. And yes, could a championship team use him? Maybe. I mean, as I said, a third big man. But him expecting 20 to 25 minutes a game is a big, big stretch. And I think he really needs to lower his expectations going into next season, because he's an okay player, but he's nowhere near what you want in a backup center for a finals team. Let's shift to this for the final topic before we get into the trades. We're going to be talking about Tristan Thompson. He was in the last year of his deal this past season, making, I believe, $16 million. And he's finally off the books for that horrendous Cavs team. And teams are interested. Teams are definitely interested. The three teams that are coming up on reports as of late: the Toronto Raptors, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Los Angeles Clippers. Three pretty good teams looking for big man help, each for their own reasons. And, Tristan Thompson gives you a little something for each of those teams. He gives energy. He gives rebounding, where he is one of the best rebounders in the league. And he brings a little bit of toughness. I mean, LeBron James has played with him before. This guy was a starting center for an NBA Finals team, which led him to getting the bag. I mean, he is represented by Clutch Sports, I believe, as well. He got the bag and has been dying away with the Cavs over the past few years. But now I think this is his chance to kind of move out of that system and maybe go to a contender. And each team has their reasons for wanting to have a Tristan Thompson, and they're all pretty valid. Tristan Thompson, like I said, brings a lot of energy, fantastic rebound. A lot of teams would want that. Let's look at each of these teams. Like the Toronto Raptors, especially with the news breaking a few months ago about Marc Gasol, more than likely he's going to be going to the Spanish league to finish out his career. That just leaves a gaping hole in that big man position. It's already going to be hard enough to sign Serge Ibaka this offseason, so what are the other options? I mentioned Montrezl Harrell in the past. Now you have Tristan Thompson, who can bring energy. I think under the right system, he can actually excel a lot, and I think Nick Nurse can get that out of him. And just as an added bonus, he's Canadian. I think he is used to being in the area, and it's he's just comfortable with it. And having a Canadian to adding to a Raptors team, especially maybe being a backup or starting center, that's money right there. That really is money. And I think that wouldn't be a bad fit for Tristan Thompson. For the Los Angeles Clippers, the very easy relationship that he has with them is that Ty Lue, the head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers, was the head coach of the Cavs when they won the championship back in 2016. And Ty Lue went with the decision to start Tristan Thompson for a lot of that time, and he just knows how to coach him, and he knows what he could do well, what he excels at. And I think that the Clippers are missing that big man presence. I mean, I've talked about in the past. I like Zubac. I wouldn't want him as my starting center because he's a little he's instant office coming off the bench. I think that could be good for the Clippers. But as a starting center, he's very flat-footed, not a very good defender, and at times his rebound is kind of lacking. Bringing Tristan Thompson, he brings energy. He brings a bit of grit into that starting lineup, and I think that is something that the Clippers could definitely be looking for. Then you have the Los Angeles Lakers, and the easy connection you can make with them is that LeBron knows how he plays. They, of course, were playing together on that 2016 Cavs team, which was coached by Ty Lue, so he has connections to both LA franchises at the moment. And I think that the Lakers don't really need help in that big man position, but bringing someone in like Tristan Thompson, I mean, obviously the camaraderie with him and LeBron, I just think that it wouldn't be a bad pickup. You had this year JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, and like AD kind of being that big man rotation, especially at the center position. Maybe bringing Tristan Thompson, who is just going to be a monster on the rebound, like on the glass. The Lakers kind of struggled at that at some points in the playoffs, so if you bring in someone like Tristan Thompson, bring that energy, I think that would not be a bad idea. And like I said, this guy like has like skills that is wanted from an NBA team, whether that's being like a cheap starting center or a backup. And he has some great choices here with the Los Angeles Clippers, Lakers, and Raptors. Not a bad choice from either of them. If I was him, I would go to the Los Angeles Clippers. I think he would need him the most, and he would actually get the most minutes there. And he would also be, like I said, on a championship contender. So Tristan Thompson looks like to be a hot piece of, asset. So, oh my gosh, I don't know why the heck did I say that, but he is definitely a hot commodity in a very, very shallow free agency market. So he's going to have his choice at a lot of teams. Let's see where he's going to end up and see if he's going to be able to make an impact outside of Cleveland. So those are the news updates we're going to be talking about here today. If you have any thoughts on them, please leave it down in the comment section below. Tristan Thompson is going to be a very interesting team. Let me know where would you want to see him this upcoming season. Like I said, he has some great characteristics about him that he can help a lot of teams in this league. So leave your comments down below on that. But let's move on to the next segment in our show, and we're going to be talking about a lot of trade rumors. And I was going to add them just to the show, just to talk about them, and stuff like that. But why do that? Why do that when you can have some fun with it? And I, for once, went to the NBA trade machine. There are a lot of players that have been in trade rumors, not just this week, but just kind of like throughout the last few weeks. And I thought, why not put on my GM cap on and try to create trades on my own and see like what, where I would want some of these players to be, and just talk about what value do they have on the market. And honestly, talking about the trade machine, it's so frustrating, man. Using the trade machine. The menus are kind of confusing. There's sometimes I want to try adding a third team, and that just kind of broke my mind at some points. It's really tough, and like trying to figure out, you can't trade this pick because of the Stepien law, because you can't trade picks from back-to-back drafts. It's really hard working the trade machine. It was really difficult, but I have 6 players here who have been constantly in trade rumors, and I have trades for them, so it took a while to come up with these trades because of that stinking trade machine, but we have trades here, and let's just get right into talking about it. The first player we're going to be talking about is Chris Paul. There have been reports throughout the week saying that it is very likely that he's going to get traded, but his preferred destinations are either any of the LA teams or any of the New York teams, aka the Knicks or the Brooklyn Nets. That kind of limits it down to a lot because I think that Chris Paul could be a great piece on other teams, but if he really is adamant on being in one of those big markets, whether it's New York, Brooklyn, or any of the LA teams, it makes things a lot harder. And I have a trade here that I think would kind of make sense because, honestly, that contract is just super, super hard to trade. He is owed $41 million this year, next year, and then he has a player option. Like, this trade was literally impossible in a lot of places. Like, when I tried doing stuff for the Clippers, honestly, it's literally impossible without adding someone like a Paul George. They just have too much money tied up in that team. It's just way too difficult to come up with a trade for the Clippers. The Lakers. That was one of the more funny ones I've been trying to figure out because they have so much money tied into LeBron and AD. They have some, trading pieces. Maybe the Thunder would want to have Kyle Kuzma in return. But really, for this trade to happen, they would need to do something really crazy. And I think I heard this on the No Dunks podcast a few days ago. Literally, one of the only ways to make this trade work is if the Lakers do kind of a sign and trade with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and he would have to make like $35 million in 1 year, and then trade him to Oklahoma City and bring back Chris Paul. That's super unrealistic, and honestly, just thinking that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope getting $35 million in 1 year just absolutely blows my mind. And I just don't think that is just any sort of like realism there for him going to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Brooklyn Nets, it's really interesting. Back with him and Kyrie, kind of iffy on my behalf, so I didn't really look into it that much. Obviously, the Thunder wouldn't mind getting people like Dinwiddie and LeVert, but I just don't think that dynamic with Chris Paul and Kyrie Irving will work. So I kind of steered away from that. So that leaves one team left, and that is the New York Knicks. And the trade here that I'm going to be proposing is CP3, Chris Paul, traded to the New York Knicks for Julius Randle, 2 second-round picks, two first-round picks, one in 2021 unprotected from Dallas, and also a 2023 pick from Dallas that is unprotected. Do I want Chris Paul in New York? No. But if we're looking at where he wants to be and stuff like that, this is the only thing that is realistic at best. I mean, the Knicks have been so bad for so long that they kind of just need that competitive edge to them and to gain just legitimacy again. And I think Chris Paul can just automatically give them legitimacy. Well, that would be such a Knicks thing to do. Let's be honest. I mean, getting a 33, almost 34-year-old Chris Paul, $40 million a year to add to this team. I mean, what did that really give them? I mean, maybe a borderline playoff team, probably an 8th or 7th seed at best. Like, it's just not a great trade for really either sides. I mean, I guess for the Thunder, you can get some picks back. But the only thing for this way to really work is maybe taking a chance on Julius Randle. I mean, at least that's a good thing with the New York Knicks. They could take on cap space. But am I really down for that? Not really. So I created a different trade because if there's one place I want CP3 to go, it's the Miami Heat. And a trade here that I've kind of built up is Chris Paul traded to Miami for Kendrick Nunn and 2 first-round picks. I don't think that's a bad idea. Kendrick Nunn, 3rd place in the Rookie of the Year voting, he has shown some promise. Obviously, with Goran Dragic playing so well, he was kind of moved out of the rotation during the playoffs. But I still think there's some good characteristics to him. Why not try him at the 1, have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the 2 for the Thunder, and you get 2 first-round picks in return. And I think that's just not a bad idea. And for CP3, pairing him up in that culture with Jimmy Butler, Hero, Duncan Robinson, Bam, I think that would be absolutely fantastic to watch, fantastic to see. And I'll be all for it. I mean, the Heat want to build upon that finals appearance, and I think having Chris Paul would definitely help that. I know the New York trade is possible, but honestly, in my opinion, him going to the Miami Heat would be a much better fit. Especially if I know the Thunder is probably going to be asking for Hero Robinson, but I think Kendrick Nunn is still not a bad return. Bring along a couple first-round picks, maybe another one of those veterans from them. I just think it is not a bad idea. Let's move on to the next trade, and we're going to be talking about James Harden. And a lot of the rumors with James Harden is that because the Philadelphia 76ers hired Daryl Morey, that one of their biggest trade targets, I think not just for this season but for next season, is trying to get James Harden. So I really did try my best to figure out a trade here where it sends Harden to Philly. And I think it's going to be kind of tough because, one, Philly has a bunch of contracts that I don't know like which ones would really fit with the Rockets and stuff like that. Firstly, I mean, the Rockets are going to want to keep James Harden at all costs. And what it really comes down for me here is that if they're going to trade away James Harden, more than likely they want to get rid of Russell Westbrook too. So, I mean, I'm not going to do this trade including Russell Westbrook, but I'm doing this trade as if Russell Westbrook isn't really in the mix for the Houston Rockets, and they're kind of starting over. So I have a trade here. It would be sending Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Zaire Smith, and 2 first-round picks for James Harden. This is going to be a really, really tough trade, and I think in order for this trade to happen, the Rockets would have to demand either Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid back. Actually, looking at this, you know what? Instead of Ben Simmons, put in Joel Embiid, and instead of Josh Richardson, bring it. Actually, no, just do Joel Embiid, Josh Richardson, Zaire Smith, and 3 first-round picks. That is my trade for the Houston Rockets. If they're going to restart, I mean, this is probably the best deal possible. And I know I talked about how Westbrook probably won't be in the mix. I think Westbrook and Embiid could be very interesting, but also they have that storied past, so it's really crazy about that too. But I think the 76ers would be hell-bent on keeping Ben Simmons. He is the prototypical modern-day kind of point forward. I mean, no, he can't shoot the 3 or something like that. But he can defend, he can assist, and he can score relentlessly inside. And pairing him with James Harden, you would have to get rid of Josh Richardson just because he's a good piece. But I think this would not be a bad trade for Philly, bringing in one of the best players in the league today, probably the best scorer in the league. The team is not bad. And on the Houston Rockets side of things, if Embiid and Westbrook can get over their differences, why not? I mean, this is probably going to be the best big man Westbrook has ever played with. And I think that would be a very interesting way to go about things. I mean, will they be in each other's way? Yes. But with Westbrook, I mean, he is at least he's willing to take jump shots, whether it's good or not. Most of the time it's not. But I just think that having Joel Embiid in Philly and Houston could be a better fit than having Ben Simmons and stuff like that, because at least he could shoot the 3 a little bit. You wouldn't want him shooting the 3, but he can. And I just think that it was probably a better fit for the Rockets in that aspect. So my trade here, yeah, Embiid to the Rockets, James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's move on to the next player, and we're going to be talking about the guy who's probably been in the most trade rumors out of any other player throughout the course of this week, and we're going to be talking about Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday and the New Orleans Pelicans just does not fit their timeline, and I think that the Pelicans would be willing to trade him and kind of, go full in on the youth movement. And there's a lot of teams that would want Jrue Holiday. I could comfortably say that if you throw him into any system in the NBA, he would just kind of fit, because he plays great defense, not just great defense, elite defense. He can score when he has to, but he doesn't need the ball at all times. And he just doesn't really have an ego. Jrue Holiday is, from all accounts, is a fantastic locker room presence. And I think if you literally throw him onto any team, the Atlanta Hawks, him and Trae Young, fantastic backcourt. Put him on the Warriors, him, Curry, Clay, fantastic. Literally any team would want Jrue Holiday. But I have a trade here, and it has to do with the Denver Nuggets. And I think coming off this fantastic run in the bubble, I think they just want to continue to build off it and just be on the search for a new, kind of like another star. Maybe not a first or second option, but third, fourth option, not bad. So I have Jrue Holiday going to the Denver Nuggets, and the trade I have proposed is Will Barton, Gary Harris, Bol, 2 second-round picks, a 2021 first-round pick, a 2020 first-round pick from Houston, a 2024 top 5 protected pick, and yeah, that's about it for Jrue Holiday and Darius Miles. I think that the Pelicans look at this trade and say, you know what? Gary Harris, really good defender, can hit the 3 ball, not making massive amounts of money as well. I think it's under $20 million a year. I think he could be a pretty good player for the New Orleans Pelicans. And bring in Will Barton, who did not play in the bubble because of an injury. But before the bubble, this guy was actually playing at a pretty high level, in my opinion. He is just a really good player for the Denver Nuggets at just certain points of the season. Before the injury, he was averaging 15 points a game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 37% from 3, 45% from the field. Wouldn't you mind that coming off your bench? No, not at all. I think that Will Barton would be a fantastic player for them to come off their bench. He is not a bad defender as well, and the only reason I think that the Nuggets would be even willing to trade him is that they were kind of successful without him, and he's still a good player. I honestly believe that Will Barton is actually a good player, and I think still has value in this. And then you have Bol, who is kind of this guy who I talked about it like in last year how I thought he was going to be a lottery pick, even with the injury. I just think there's just so much upside with him, and he fell all the way to the second round. Like right now, he's on a 2-way contract. I just think that this guy has so much potential in him, and he's shown like flashes of that in the bubble. He can handle the ball. This guy has insane vision for a guy who's 7'2". This guy can hit the 3, and who needs to put on some muscle, but I think he could be really good inside presence. So if you have that, a couple of picks, and sending back Jrue Holiday, I think that the Pelicans would say, sure, why not? I mean, you have a young guy in Bol who can literally play positions 3 to 5. You have 2 win-now players, so you can actually compete for a playoff spot in the West. And I know you're trading away Jrue Holiday, who is a very good player, but I think for the Denver Nuggets, you wouldn't want to trade away Michael Porter Jr. And having Jrue Holiday paired up with Jamal Murray, especially because Jamal Murray is not an elite defender, he's average at best, and bringing in someone who is just gonna lock down positions 1 through 3, I think is gonna be a great addition to that team. And Holiday and Murray in that backcourt would be fantastic. So, yeah, I think that would be a really good trade for both parties. Let me know what you think below, but having Jrue Holiday in Denver seems like a fantastic move to me. A couple more trades here. We're also going to be trying to... my thing here, this is probably going to be one of the craziest trades I came up with, but we're going to be talking about the Warriors' number 2 pick. A lot of people have been saying, just kind of take James Wiseman. I think he fills in a necessity for the Golden State Warriors. I mean, they're missing a center. James Wiseman, the best center in this draft, significantly. It just seems like the perfect fit. But I don't think that the Warriors want to wait for James Wiseman to develop. Will he be good right away? We'll have to wait and see. But I just think that with the Warriors' timeline, Clay, Draymond, and Curry being all over 30, you would just want some win-now players. So I have a trade here, and I don't know if a lot of people are going to agree with this. I'm ready to face some backlash here. But I think this trade wouldn't be too bad. And I think it requires a lot of, risk and a lot of hope that this player is going to return to somewhat of what he used to be. But I like this idea, especially if he could be at least 90% of what he used to. Blake Griffin. Yes, Blake Griffin, been stuck on the Detroit Pistons. Had a really rough injury last year, so he only played 4 games. But I still think there's still some stardom in Blake Griffin here. And, obviously the Detroit Pistons want to go all in on the youth movement as well. And I think that Blake Griffin is a win-now player that could really help this Golden State Warriors team. Especially, like I said, he can play 90% of what he did of 2 years ago. So here's the trade. Blake Griffin in the 7th overall pick for Andrew Wiggins in the 2nd round pick. I think the Pistons would do it because, although it's not a deep draft, bringing someone like a James Wiseman, Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball could be a nice starting place for your rebuild. Hopefully you bring back Christian Wood, bring in someone like a LaMelo Ball or an Anthony Edwards. You have your number 1 scoring option going into next year. And for the Warriors, I talked about this. Blake Griffin was playing at an all-NBA type level 2 years ago. That's not far off of where he is now. And I think that taking a risk and moving down in draft to 7th, which is still not a bad pick, especially because there's not really a massive gap between the top 2 picks and the guys following that. You have an asset still in that 7th overall pick. Maybe you can find something else there as well. But taking a chance on Blake Griffin, I think, is a risk that the Warriors are willing to make. Trading away Andrew Wiggins, what he is. I mean, a lot of people want to believe that he's going to change in the Warriors system. Maybe they're going to want to play around with that before they actually make a decision on Wiggins. But if they want to win now, in 90% Blake Griffin is better than Wiggins. Straight up. It really is. And Blake Griffin just adds so many dimensions to that team. He is a fantastic post player. He is willing to shoot the three ball. And he is a fantastic passer. You can actually ask him to handle the ball at times, which is crazy because Curry can handle the ball, Draymond can, and if you had Blake Griffin, I think that wouldn't be a bad idea as well. And if he could play anywhere near that All-NBA level, that team is going to be crazy. That team is. And if it doesn't really work out, you still have that 7th overall pick in your back pocket. So I think this is a good trade for both franchises. And I think that although I have a feeling a lot of people are not going to agree with me, but I still believe that there's still some stardom in Blake Griffin. I think that if he can play near that level, he would be a great addition for the Golden State Warriors. We're going to move on to the next trade, and we're going to be talking about CJ McCollum. He has been in trade rumors here and there. He's more of a trade rumor guy throughout kind of the season and stuff like that, especially because him and Dame haven't really gotten like as far as they would kind of hope, and maybe they just want to switch things up in Portland. I mean, CJ's good, but there's a ceiling that you have with the backcourt of CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard, and I think they reached that, especially in the 2018-2019 season where they just made the Western Conference Finals and got swept by the Warriors. I mean, that's really the best you can get out of them, and if you really want to like switch things up and like that, there are trades out there. So I have a trade here, which involves CJ McCollum going to the Brooklyn Nets. I think that the Brooklyn Nets are looking for that third star, and I think that CJ McCollum could be that guy. And I have a trade here that I came up with. It would require CJ McCollum and Rodney Hood. That is, if he takes his player option, which he probably will, especially coming off that bad injury. It would be CJ McCollum and Rodney Hood to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, 2 second-round picks, and a top 5 protected 2024 first-rounder. I think that Portland would take a chance on LeVert and Dinwiddie. I mean, LeVert has shown in the bubble that he is very effective when the ball is in his hands. And I don't think a lot of people are very high on him. He just thinks oh, someone had to score, so Karis LeVert had to do that. But I still think he's a good player, and I think him beside Dame wouldn't be a bad duo. And along with, with Karis LeVert, hoping that he could become a 20-point-per-game scorer, you bring in Spencer Dinwiddie, who could really bolster that starting, that bench unit, because the Trailblazers really last year went 7-8 deep at most. And I think bringing in someone like Spencer Dinwiddie to kind of alleviate the handling duties for Damian Lillard would not be a bad idea. And in terms of LeVert and Dinwiddie, they're going to be wasted in Brooklyn. Kyrie's going to be the ball handler, and freaking KD is going to be taking all the shots. Someone like Karis LeVert being buried on the bench is extremely wasted. Move him to the Portland Trailblazers, and I think he'll have actually a good chance to do well there. And the Warriors are getting assets. I mean, it's not the Warriors. The Trailblazers are going to be getting back assets in a 2024 top 10 protected pick, couple of seconds. I see this trade good for both sides. And I think that CJ McCollum on that team would kind of be like that sneaky guy, Maybe during the regular season he'll average under 20 points a game, but when everyone is focused on Kyrie and KD in the playoffs, CJ McCollum could just sneak in there and give you a quick 40 points in a game or something like that. So I think that this trade is good for both sides, and why not? I mean, it would be great to see CJ McCollum on a championship contender, and that's what the Nets would be if they did make this trade. So yeah, very interesting trade here. And I think that the Brooklyn Nets would honestly be comfortably a 1 or 2 seed in the East if they do this trade. Would Lillard want this trade to happen? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not, because he has praised CJ McCollum a lot in the past. But I think if the Trailblazers want to kind of switch things up, take a chance on Karis LeVert being a 20-point-per-game scorer, I think they could benefit from this as well. Final trade here I have designed is revolved around Victor Oladipo. lots of conflicting reports here in the offseason. I believe a couple weeks ago they were talking about how Oladipo wants out of Indiana, and he said like, "Look, try to trade me now. I'm not going to re-sign here, so try to get whatever you can for me now." And the funny thing is that rumor was kind of debunked a few days later after Oladipo said he kind of wants to finish his career in Indiana. He loves being there. So there's a lot of conflicting reports, but reports still kind of point at the fact that Victor Oladipo still wants to leave. So if it does go through, I mean, the Pacers do deal him, there is a lot of suitors for him because he is I know he's coming off an injury, so there's still kind of a lot of question marks there. But he is one of the league's elite defenders. We've seen what he's done as a number one option. He won Most Improved in the 2017-2018 season. And he averaged like 23 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. This guy was playing at a near all-NBA level. We know he could play that sort of basketball. So if he's like anywhere near that, even before the injury last year, I mean, 18 points a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Like, this guy is a pretty good player, and a lot of teams would want to trade for him. So the trade I have here, the Milwaukee Bucks would have to go all in here. So I have Victor Oladipo going to the Bucks in exchange for Eric Bledsoe, Dante DiVincenzo, and 2 unprotected first-round picks. On the Bucks side of things, they need to switch things up, and they need to improve their team somewhere. Eric Bledsoe, they gave him a contract instead of Malcolm Brogdon. I really did not like that idea, like when they first happened. And this year, as they show in the playoffs, it's just proving my point. Eric Bledsoe is just not the right third option for that team, especially because he's not really a good shooter. He kind of takes positions away from Giannis, and it just kind of clogs up the lane because Eric Bledsoe does most of his work inside. So I think trading Eric Bledsoe to the Pacers, funnily enough to play with Malcolm Brogdon, wouldn't be a bad idea for the Pacers. I mean, they would still be competing. Bledsoe is, again, one of the best defensive guards in the league. And I think he could fit really well next to a Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, Barton can handle the ball. He's a pretty good defender as well. He could take the majority of shots from the perimeter positions. And Bledsoe doesn't really need the ball to play well. He can cut inside. And he'll just always play hard on the defensive end, which is a pretty good idea for them. And they would also be getting Dante DiVincenzo, who, in my opinion, is like a very underrated player. He can shoot the 3-ball. He plays hard on the defensive end. And I think that would be a pretty good player to add to the lineup of the Indiana Pacers. Plus 2 unprotected first-round picks. Who picks are assets, and I think everyone wants those type of assets. Victor Oladipo to the Bucks is something I really do want to see, especially because of his defensive capabilities, his ability to shoot the 3-ball. And like I said, this guy has proven to that he could be a number 1 or 2 option on a very good team. I mean, as a number 1 option in Indiana 2 years ago, the 2017-2018 season, he took LeBron James to 7 games. Remember that. He played really well in that series, and I think that a lot of people kind of forget how good Oladipo is, and if he's anywhere near, especially like with this offseason, he could come back and be near that type of performer. And I think him with his shooting ability, him with his defensive abilities, and he's just as good as a playmaker as Eric Bledsoe, I think would be absolutely fantastic to pair him beside, to play him beside, Chris Middleton and Giannis. And that defense would be ridiculous, honestly. They were already a very good defensive team last year, but bringing Oladipo to pair with Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez, that is something that would be fantastic for that team. And I think both teams would not mind doing it, especially because Oladipo's on the last year of his deal. So if you can get a return of Bledsoe and DiVincenzo for him, I think that would be not bad, especially if he really, really does want to be out of that team. So yeah, that is the Oladipo trade. Those are all the trades. If you agree, disagree with any of them, leave them down in the comment section, and try to trade the machine yourself. I mean, maybe you can have better luck than I am, but those are some of the trades I have here. I checked the trade machine; they are all good to go, and that they actually work within the salary cap and stuff like that. So they work, guys. If you guys check this out, it actually does work. So, yeah, hopefully it. Let's see what's gonna be happening in this offseason, because like I said, the free agent market's kind of dead, and I think that the trade market would be a lot more busier. So, leave your thoughts below on these trades. Come up with some trades on your own. I would love to interact with you guys in the comment section. But I think this is where we're gonna end today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to follow, to check out my YouTube channel on Wednesday as I post a new React video. Still deciding whether I'm going to do another article or a video. Remember to check that. If you don't want to miss out on it, remember to be subscribed. Hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss an episode, and just continue to show love. And also drop down some suggestions in the comment section, some videos or things that you want to see me react to. So that's in terms of my YouTube. Again, this Friday I'm going to have a guest on the podcast. Like I said, a familiar face. I'm going to be very excited to announce that tomorrow who's going to be coming on. And yeah, very excited for this NBA offseason, the draft being next week as well. You can see I'm going to try to develop another kind of mock draft for the lottery coming into this NBA draft. So very, very excited to bring out some off-season content. But I think this is where we're going to end things. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Remember to show your love on all social medias at TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And I really do appreciate you taking out of your time, out of your day to watch this. So, hope you all have a blessed day. Take it easy, guys. Peace.